My son pulled up in front of the brick building with the fake wreath on the door and said it as casually as ordering drive-through. "Dad, this is where you're staying for now." I blinked at the sign, Riverside Transitional Housing. A shelter. On Christmas Eve, somewhere between his shaky voice and my granddaughter's tablet humming in the back seat, I realized I wasn't going to Christmas dinner at all. They weren't taking me to their house. They were dropping me off. And right there, while my heart slid down into my stomach, I turned to you, the viewer, because moments like this make a man feel painfully small. Subscribe, tell me your age and where you're watching from. For you, it's a tiny gesture, but for me, it's the reason I keep telling these stories. "Corbin," I whispered, "you can't be serious." "It's just for the night," he said, staring straight ahead. "Tomorrow we'll talk. The kids are tired. Claudia doesn't want another incident." So that was it. My family's Christmas gift to me was a bed and a shelter. I stepped out of the car with the tin of gingerbread I'd baked for the grandkids. Before I reached the door, they were already driving away. I thought that was the lowest point of my life. But sunrise would prove me very, very wrong. Inside the shelter, the heat hit me so hard my glasses fogged up like I'd walked into a sauna for disappointed grandfathers. A woman at the check-in desk, name tag said Marvell, Christmas sweater screaming with blinking lights, looked me over. "First time with us?" she asked. "Is it that obvious?" "Well," she said, tapping her pen, "most men don't show up clutching a tin of gingerbread like it's diplomatic cargo." I glanced at the cookies. These were supposed to be for my grandkids. Marvell softened. "Then let's make sure you at least get a cup of cocoa to go with them." She led me to a small room with 2 beds. My roommate, an older fellow named Ephraim, sprang upright the moment I entered. "You snore?" he demanded. "Not unless something very dramatic is happening in my dreams." He nodded approvingly. "Good. Last guy snored like a tractor with emotional issues." I sat on my bed, thin mattress, lumpy pillow, blanket that looked like it had survived 3 wars, and placed the tin beside me. The gingerbread trees shifted inside, tapping like nervous little fingers. Ephraim squinted at the tin. "That cookies. Were cookies. Now they're a symbol of betrayal." "Ah," he said. "Family dropped you off." I nodded. He pointed at his own suitcase. "Mine left me at a casino once." "At least you got indoor heating." Despite everything, I actually snorted. But when the laughter faded, the silence hurt. Christmas Eve, and I was in a shelter, wearing the sweater I'd ironed for family photos. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere in the hallway, someone's radio played a sad, off-key Jingle Bells. I thought the world had decided I didn't matter. But by morning, the whole city would know my name. I barely slept. Not because of the thin mattress or Ephraim mumbling in his dreams about someone stealing his slippers, but because my mind kept replaying the moment my son drove away. Over and over. Like a sad holiday movie nobody asked for. At dawn, Marvell knocked on our door. "Breakfast in 10. And no fighting over the good muffins this time." Ephraim gasped dramatically. "She lies. There are no good muffins." We shuffled to the cafeteria. Metal tables. Plastic poinsettias. A TV mounted high in the corner playing the morning news on low volume. A volunteer handed me a tray, powdered eggs, toast that could break a tooth, and something they called oatmeal, but I'd call brave. I sat with Ephraim, who ate like someone who'd made peace with the concept of disappointment. "You'll get used to it," he said. "I don't want to get used to it." I replied quietly. "I want my family." He shrugged. "Families are great, until they decide you're inconvenient. Then poof, you're yesterday's casserole." Despite myself, I chuckled. But then something strange happened. The reporter on the TV said a word that made my head snap up. The winning ticket was sold right here in Brookford County. Brookford County. My county. Ephraim squinted at the screen. "Hey, didn't you say you buy those scratch-offs every Friday from the corner store?" I did. Every Friday for 26 years. One ticket. Same store. Same routine. A silly little tradition that made me feel like luck still remembered my address. The camera zoomed in on a clerk holding up a printout. $4.3 million, the reporter said. Officials say the ticket holder has not yet come forward. Ephraim elbowed me. "Wouldn't it be something if I didn't win anything?" I said, waving him off. But my mind was already racing. I had bought a ticket the week before. I'd tucked it into the pocket of my winter coat. The coat that was now in a storage bin, behind the check-in desk, where Marvell put it last night. I shot to my feet so fast I knocked over my brave oatmeal. because suddenly, Christmas wasn't the worst day of my life. It might have been the luckiest. I rushed out of the cafeteria so fast Marvell shouted after me. Sir, sir, you can't sprint in here. We just waxed the floors. Which, judging by the slipperiness, was true. I nearly died twice on the way to the front desk. The storage room was a cramped closet stacked with donated jackets that looked like they'd lived long, complicated lives. My coat, thick wool, missing one button, sat squished between a neon ski jacket and something that smelled like pickles. I yanked it free and shoved my hands into every pocket like a raccoon breaking into a vending machine. Keys, a receipt for cough drops, a butterscotch I'd forgotten about, lint the size of a small domestic animal. But no ticket. My heart dropped. Maybe it fell out. Maybe someone grabbed it. Maybe fate just hated me this week. Then Ephraim appeared in the doorway, breathing hard from his version of running, a determined shuffle. You find it? No, I muttered. Story of my life. He scratched his beard. Check the inside lining. Old coats are like unfaithful spouses. They hide things. I rolled my eyes but shoved my hand deep past a tear in the lining and felt paper. Thin, crisp, folded. My fingers shook as I pulled it out. There it was. The ticket. The numbers. The same ones flashing on the TV in the cafeteria right now. My eyes burned. Anger, disbelief, hope, all twisted up. I can't believe this, I whispered. My family left me in a shelter. The same night, I became a millionaire. Ephraim clapped me on the shoulder. Well, if you're looking for a new family, I eat a lot, but I'm cheerful. I laughed. Real, honest laughter. The first since before they abandoned me. But before I could even breathe, Marvell stormed in like an angry reindeer. What are you two doing? I heard yelling. I held up the ticket. And for a moment, even her blinking sweater froze. She stared, then whispered, oh my lord. You're the man they're talking about on TV. And that's when I realized. This wasn't just luck. This was the first real power I'd had in years. Marvell escorted me back to the cafeteria like I was radioactive. People stared. Ephraim walked beside me with his chest puffed out, whispering, act natural. Millionaires don't blink too much. Why would blinking matter? No idea, he said. But rich people always look like they're thinking about soup. When we entered, the TV was still on. The reporter repeated the story, cheerful as a wind-up toy. The winning ticket, worth over $4 million, is still unclaimed. Officials are urging residents to check their pockets. Ephraim shoved me forward. He checked his pocket. The entire room went silent. Forks stopped. Mouths froze. Even the oatmeal seemed to pause mid-steam. I held up the ticket. My hand trembled, not from fear, but from something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. Real, solid control. Marvell gasped so loudly her blinking sweater paused in shock. Mr. Kellum, you need to call the lottery office immediately. But I didn't move. I just stared at the TV, at the scrolling numbers that suddenly belonged to me. And something inside me cracked open. Not anger, but a deep ache that had been sitting in my chest for years. My children didn't leave me because I was helpless. They left me because I was inconvenient. They left me because they thought they'd never need me again. A warm hand touched my arm. Ephraim, you all right, buddy? Yeah, I whispered. I'm just realizing I'm not as disposable as they thought. He nodded. Money won't fix everything, but it sure makes a man stand a little taller. I wiped my eyes quickly so no one would see. Not the tears, but the gratitude. Gratitude for a stranger who cared more than my own kin. Marvell handed me her office phone. Call them, Mr. Kellum. Play 'em what's yours. I took the phone, but as it rang, one thought hit me so hard I had to sit down. My family had no idea yet. And when they found out, their Christmas would get very, very interesting. The lottery office picked up with the kind of chipper voice only people who've never been abandoned at a shelter on Christmas Eve can have. Congratulations, sir. Please come in today for verification. Today, I repeated. It's Christmas morning. Yes, sir, but for $4 million, we're willing to put down our cinnamon rolls. I hung up and sat there for a moment, the ticket warm in my hand. For $1 million. And not a single person from my family had called, texted, or even sent a half-hearted emoji. Ephraim slapped the table. Well, what now? Are we taking a limo? A helicopter? A donkey with festive bows? We, I corrected with a smile, are taking the bus. The bus? He frowned. Millionaires don't ride buses. I shrugged. I'm a shelter millionaire. Different breed. When we stepped outside, the morning sun bounced off the snow like it was trying to blind me into optimism. Ephraim shuffled beside me, carrying my coat like he was holding a priceless artifact, which, technically, he was. At the bus stop, an older woman looked us over and said, "Going somewhere special, boys?" "Lottery office," Ephraim replied before I could stop him. He won big. She narrowed her eyes at me. "You? You don't look rich." "I wasn't 5 minutes ago," I said. She sniffed. "Well, don't let it go to your head. My cousin won the lotto in '89 and bought a hot tub. Got stuck in it. Fire department had to saw him out." Ephraim whispered, "This is why I love public transportation." The bus arrived, hissing like it disapproved of Christmas. We climbed aboard, found seats near the back, and suddenly I felt every emotion a man can feel at once. Relief, sadness, joy, anger, all jumbled into something strangely human. As the bus rattled toward the city center, Ephraim nudged me. "You gonna call your family?" I stared out the window. "No," I said quietly. "Not today." He tilted his head. "Payback." "Peace," I answered. For once, just peace. But inside, beneath the calm, a small spark of something sharper flickered. They were about to see my face on every TV. And that would be interesting, to say the least. The lottery office looked nothing like I imagined. No golden lights. No dramatic music. Just a bland waiting room with a dying poinsettia and a receptionist named Darla, whose sweater featured a cat tangled in Christmas lights. And the cat looked happier than she did. "Ticket?" she asked. I handed it over like I was surrendering a newborn. She examined it with a magnifier, then with a scanner, then with the deep sigh of a woman who has seen too many people claim miracle winnings scribbled in crayon. Finally, she looked up. "Well, Mr. Kellum, congratulations. It's real." My chest tightened. Ephraim, who'd insisted on coming in with me for moral support and snacks, let out a victory noise that sounded like a goose celebrating a touchdown. Darla slid a stack of papers toward me. "Once these are filled out, we'll arrange your televised announcement." Televised? I blinked. "Oh yes, holiday winner. Big deal." She pointed to a poster on the wall. "Last year's winner with a smile so wide it looked painful. You'll be on every channel in the state." Every channel. So by the time my family opened their Christmas presents, they'd be watching me on TV. As I signed forms, Ephraim wandered around touching things like a toddler in a museum. At one point, he picked up a crystal bowl. "Wow, fancy. What's this for?" "Raffle entries," Darla snapped. "Please put it down. Gently. Please." He said it so gently it made no sound at all. Then it immediately slid off the counter and crashed to pieces. "I swear that was gravity, not me," he whispered. Darla inhaled like she was about to call the police. I stepped in quickly. "He's with me." She froze, recalculating. The millionaire had spoken. Her tone changed instantly. "Not a problem at all. Happens all the time." Which was clearly a lie. No one breaks department decor bowls all the time. After another 15 minutes, a cameraman appeared, adjusting his headset. "Mr. Kellum? Ready to go live in 5. I straightened my sweater, the same one I'd ironed for the Christmas dinner I never got. Ephraim patted my shoulder. "Smile like someone whose family didn't ditch him in a parking lot." That's very specific advice. Life has given me very specific experiences. The cameraman counted down. 3, 2, 1. Red light on. My face appeared on every TV screen in the state. And somewhere, in a warm living room full of presents and marshmallow casserole, my family was watching. The moment the red light blinked on, everything, the shelter, the cold, the humiliation, fell away. All I saw was the lens. And behind it, every person who had ever made me feel small. The host, a young man with hair that defied gravity, beamed at me. "Mr. Kellum, Merry Christmas. How does it feel to win over $4 million?" I took a breath, steady and slow. "It feels," I said, "like life finally remembered I exist." The host laughed politely, expecting something cheerful and shallow. But I didn't give him that. "I was dropped off at a shelter last night." I continued, keeping my voice even. "My family said it was just for the night. Turns out, it was long enough for everything to change." The host's smile vanished. The cameraman leaned in. Somewhere offset, Darla froze mid-clipboard tap. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I just spoke. The way a man speaks when he's carrying 50 years of swallowed anger. I spent Christmas Eve alone, wondering if I still mattered. A beat. And this morning, I found out I do. Behind the camera, Ephraim pumped his fists like I was winning the Super Bowl. The host tried to recover. "WL, that's quite a story." "It's not a story," I said. "It's my life. And from now on, I'm the one deciding where I go and who I spend my time with." Somewhere across town, I pictured my son slowly lowering his forkful of marshmallow casserole, eyes glued to the screen, his wife whispering, "Arlen?" As in your father, Arlen. The host cleared his throat. "And what's your first plan as a winner?" I smiled, not bitter, not vengeful, just honest. "I'm going to take a friend out for a proper breakfast," I said. "A hot meal, with real butter, and muffins that don't taste like drywall." Ephraim shouted, "Amen," loud enough to make the boom mic rattle. The staff burst into laughter. Even the host cracked a grin. As the segment ended, the cameraman whispered, "Sir, that was the most honest interview we've ever aired." But the moment we walked off set, my phone, silent all night, began to vibrate in my pocket like a rabid squirrel. Call after call, text after text. My son, my daughter-in-law, my nieces, a number labeled unknown, which I strongly suspected was my brother, who only calls when someone dies or wins money. Ephraim peered at the screen. The ghost of Christmas regret. I didn't answer, not a single one. Instead, I powered the phone off and slipped it into my pocket. For the first time in years, I felt peaceful. But I knew this peace wouldn't last long. My family was on their way, and they weren't coming for Christmas cheer. They were coming for me. I didn't even make it out of the building. Ephraim and I had just reached the lobby. He was still ranting about celebratory pancakes the size of manhole covers, when the glass door slid open and in stormed my son, Corbin. Red-faced, out of breath, hair sticking up like he'd run through a wind tunnel of guilt. "Dad," he shouted, loud enough to scare a nearby potted plant. "Why didn't you answer your phone? We saw you on TV. Why didn't you tell us?" Behind him, Claudia hurried in, lips tight, eyes wide with the panic of a woman who just realized she may have fumbled for $1 million like it was car keys. "Arlen," she breathed dramatically. "We were worried." I raised an eyebrow. "Last night? This morning? Or right after you heard the number for million?" Corbin winced. Claudia pretended not to hear. "Dad, look, we messed up," my son said, voice cracking. "Dropping you off like that was a mistake. We were overwhelmed. And the kids, don't blame the kids," I said, holding up a hand. "They didn't drive the car." Ephraim stepped closer, crossing his arms like a loyal, slightly unhinged bodyguard. "This them?" he asked loudly. "The family that shelved you like a leftover lasagna?" Corbin blinked. "Who is that?" "My friend," I said. "A man who treated me better in one night than you did all year." Claudia jumped in, sugary sweet. "Arlen, honey, we just want you to come home. It's Christmas. Let's sit down, talk, be a family." And for a heartbeat, a tiny, trembling heartbeat, I wanted to. I wanted forgiveness, warmth, belonging. But then I remembered the car door closing, the shelter hallway, the tiny bed, the cold, and I remembered something else. Peace. The peaceful smile I wore on live TV. The first real smile I'd had in months. I took a breath. "I'm not angry," I said quietly. "Not anymore. But I won't go back to a house where I'm treated like baggage you drop off when it's inconvenient." Corbin's eyes glistened. "Dad, please. I love you," I said. "But love doesn't mean letting people shrink you." Claudia tried one last move. A desperate one. "Well, we should talk about the money. For the kids' future. For the family." Ephraim snorted so loud it echoed. "Lady, the only thing you're worried about is your next handbag." I turned to my son. "For years, I gave everything I had. And yesterday you gave me a bed and a shelter. That's the math." Corbin's face crumpled. "So that's it?" "No," I said softly. "That's not it." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small tin of gingerbread cookies, the ones I carried the night they left me. I pressed it into Corbin's hands. "Give these to the kids," I said. "Tell them Grandpa loves them. And if they want to see me, they always can. But it will be on my terms now." Tears finally slid down my son's cheeks. Claudia stared at the floor, and Ephraim whispered, "My God, that was cinematic." But this wasn't the ending. My real ending, my victory, was just one step away. I walked past them, slow, steady, not out of anger, but out of clarity. For the first time in my life, I decided where I was going. Outside, the cold air hit my face, but it didn't sting anymore. Snow drifted lazily across the street, the kind that makes the whole world feel quiet, thoughtful, almost forgiving. Ephraim followed, muttering, "If they run after us, I'm prepared to distract them with interpretive dance." "No need," I said, smiling. We reached the bus stop, the same one we'd taken that morning. Funny how a man can ride the same route twice in one day and be a completely different person by evening. Ephraim nudged me. "So, where to now, Mr. Millionaire?" I looked down the snowy street, the city glowing gold and soft. "Breakfast first," I said. "A real one. Pancakes, bacon, coffee that hasn't been through 3 world wars." "And after?" he asked. "After," I said, "I'm buying a small house. Warm, quiet, with a porch. A place where I decide who comes in and who doesn't." Ephraim grinned. "You got room for a friend with questionable habits and excellent jokes?" "Always." The bus pulled up with a hiss. We climbed in, sat near the window, and as the city rolled by, something inside me finally settled. My family hadn't broken me. They hadn't ended me. They'd freed me. They'd handed me the cleanest slate a man could ask for: a fresh start, independence, and a reminder that I mattered more than they ever let me believe. As the bus rattled toward the diner, Ephraim raised his paper cup of shelter cocoa like a toast. "To new beginnings," he said. I lifted mine. "To choosing myself," I answered. Outside, Christmas lights flickered warmly in windows. Inside, my heart felt lighter than it had in years. I didn't win $4 million. I won my life back, and that was the richest feeling I'd ever known.